you so much. Thank you for the invitation for this really interesting and I think very important meeting and conference. And of course, thank you for the possibility to participation in this extremely interesting project together with all colleagues, Xavier and all colleagues from Nasuvinsa and other partner institutes. Our task in the project, one of our tasks was to analyze the flows of people, including flows, migration and tourism. And frankly speaking, it was something very challenging, even much more challenging than I could imagine when we were at the stage of to apply for the project. Here you can see the name of the people involved from our side. And I will tell very briefly about methodology, but I have to do it because I'm sure that later on you could have some questions concerning the methodology, because the methodology already was challenging, and then to present some results, including some explanatory factors. And very briefly, I signalize just that at the end of the project, we have the let's say appendix to the projects because of the second black swan who appeared during the realization. I mean the Russian aggression against Ukraine and migration, of course, were definitely affected by this black swan. And finally, that brings me to some short conclusion. So concerning the methodology, we should remember that talking about migration, interregional migration, we have actually two different tasks and two different spheres. One is the international migration and another one is internal. Why they are separate? Because of the different way how the statistics are usually collected in the member state countries, and definitely different challenges challenges for us to prepare the final full matrices of the migration between European regions. So we were in general work on the step by step. In case of the external migration, I mean international migration, we start from what was prepared and what was available in Eurostat. Then we moved to the national statistical institutions in two steps. First, make a querenda of what is prepared on and available on the website, and then start the direct connection to the institution and ask them for data. In case of the internal migration, there is no data on the level of Eurostat. It could be comparable, so we start from the national statistical institutions. And of course, in both cases, it was necessary to make also the final step and final stage, which was modeling, because all data were definitely not available. And this is just an example, and this is country to country, so this very general level, which we could imagine that data should be provided by Eurostat, but it is true, but only in that cells which are green. In case of those which are yellow, it is finally available on the level of the national statistical institutions, and in case of the gray color, that means it is not available. So already at that level, it is necessary to do something and to prepare data, I would say. So this is the lack of data already on that level. So what was our rules to finalize this task? So generally to minimize losses. So we want to preserve the original data. In every case where we have the raw data from the statistical offices, we were trying to keep it. Yeah? So then we have the different internal and external methodology, as I have already said. And what means aggressive counting? Aggressive counting means that in general, that is one of our assumptions, is that the migration are underestimated in Europe. that not all migration are registered. And in some country, this registration is more realistic. In some country, there is a lot of gaps. And this is why we decide that if we have the PAR, and in some cases, the most extreme was the migration between Romania and Germany. Yeah? So the data were totally different. I mean, the immigration from Romania to Germany was much, much higher than the immigration to Germany from Romania. So we decide that we are always trying to use the higher number. Yeah? So if there is a difference, so the higher number is more real. Yeah, so we have to accept this heterogeneity, and we have to accept that we use different kind of modeling, sometimes based, because this is also the question of the time series, and sometimes the lack of data was for particular years, and this was easier because this was possible to estimate on that basis. But in some cases, it was necessary to use some external, let's say, other variables to produce the final data, and then we use this analysis on the exit gates and entry gates, and then especially to move from the level of country to country to region level. And this is an example how it was done. In the case, of course, where the data were not available. Yeah. So then finally we use mainly the three variables. And the origin country, it was in general the population. In the destination country, it was GDP as a push and pull factors, main push and pull factors. But in addition, we use also the previous migration. I mean that the previous migration, according to the migration network theory, this is something which could explain why, for instance, in some part of Germany, the Eastern European migrants are concentrated. Yeah. Also in some other places. So this was an additional factor. So generally based in that case on the Eurostat data about the foreign-born population in particular countries. And that's finally we produce the matrices, and we also produce, and this is an important information for all who want to use this data. I think this is crucial at this point. It's this color. This is just the fragment, of course, of the matrices, which is the meta matrices. And on that meta matrices, you could recognize in case of each cells how this cells was produced. So in case of the green color, it's the raw data. It's the real raw data. Then in case of the orange color, it means that it was the higher value from this when we had this asymmetry of data from both sides, yeah, from two sources. And then there are different kind of modeling based of time series or based of the pull and push factor. Depends on that. There are different colors. So of course this is very brief explanation. You can find it in our report how it was done. Our colleague Wojciech Pomianowski, he was the let's say father of this methodology. Unfortunately, he's not with us today, but I think we were finally successful. As I have already said, it was extremely challenging. Okay, so moving to some results. Strongest relation. This is not maybe not so surprising, but same as before when we were talking about the FDI or event rate, the strongest relation are relation inside internal migration, domestic migration. You could see this. One important point, in addition, methodological point, which was very difficult to solve, and just we have to keep it in mind when we are going to interpretation. It is that the size of units matter. this is it is matter especially in case of the internal migration, because since the NUTS 2 regions are smaller in Germany than in Poland or France, that means that the more internal local migration are included in such a country, and there is no way to solve this. The only way could be to aggregate the units and to change the general methodological assumption. So this is one of the reasons, but not the only one, why the migration in Germany, and the same is partly in the UK, are these domestic migration are let's say strong. I would say stronger. But on the other hand, also in the other countries, this is quite clear picture as the migration between southern and northern Italy, or some also in Spain or in Greece. That's the migration usually to the main metropolitan areas of the particular countries. On the right-hand side, you can see the relation of the highest flow volume, which is this is altogether 50% of the total, let's say, migration traffic. Yeah, and in that case, already some international migration are visible, and these are mainly the migration on the east-west direction, especially from Romania. They are, and partly from Poland. But it will be better visible on the other map. Here, we are moving from the relation, from the interaction to the regions already. And on the first map, you can see the intensity in the absolute value. And on the right-hand side, this is weighted intensity, weighted by population, of course. And you can again recognize this core area. But it is also important when we are talking about some peripheries that already this picture is much more differentiated, especially if you compare such a country as Romania and Bulgaria on one hand side, and Poland, Slovakia, and Czech Republic on the other, because the migration, please remember that we are talking about the period 2010-2018. So this is partly including the huge migration flow from East Central Europe after the accession. Still, the labor market for Eastern European was open in Germany in 2011, if I'm correct. So already during that time. Yeah, it's same in Austria and some other countries. So this is still, but the differences are visible since Poland or Slovakia, this value are much small. It is not so big because of the total number of population. In relation to population, the Romanian immigration was much higher. Total intensity, okay, it was growing. It was almost linear, but as you remember, as Xavier showed us today morning, this is the special period. We are after the 2008 crisis, and we are after the enlargement of the EU already, and on the other hand, we are before the present problems, present black swamps, present crises. So this is. But if we look at the regional dimension of the dynamics, that's already seems we could see some differences, because this is the general outflow of migration and the changes between 2010 and 2018, and in the peripheries in many places, and this is especially visible in Spain, but also in Poland and Baltic states. This the total volume of the outflow decrease. But on the other hand, in the central part, it is still increasing, and also in case of the inflow, it is increasing again, even in Central Eastern Europe. One of the very important points is the concentration indicators. So on the left-hand side, it is the generally concentration per population, but maybe even more illustrative is the second map, where is the kind of typology, I mean intensity versus concentration. So the red color, intensive red color, means that we have the very intensive migration and also very concentrated. So that means that they are the connection, that's, let's say, the people flows, or even we could say social connection, they are with very particular regions. Yeah, very often it is the internal, this is because of the internal migration, as in UK. That means that it is very concentrated towards London. Yeah, and the strongest connections are towards London, and they are very intensive. On the other hand, we have also some very huge area where in general this migration is not so intensive, which is the green color, and they are also deconcentrated. And this is again the case of many Eastern European countries, where the green color is dominating, which means that the outflow of migrants was the outflow to many places all over Europe, not to one particular country or one particular place. Balance. Balance is the, let's say, very basic characteristic on, which shows us the attractiveness of the particular places for migrants. And this balance is the results are quite not very surprising. And what is important, it is that we could find the places where we could find the particular cities in especially in the peripheries, but mainly in the Central Eastern, but also Southeastern Europe, which are the island of the positive balance on the sea of the very negative balance. And such an island started already in Eastern Germany, because you can see that on that map still the border between former GDR and Federal Republic is visible. And Berlin is one of such an island, with the totally different situation. Then we have the same in Warsaw, Prague, Bucharest, and Athens. Yeah? So there are some similarities from that point of view, and we could say that there are the places which compete for migrants with the European core, I mean Western Germany and Northern Italy, Switzerland, Netherlands, and so on. And it is interesting that that kind of effect is visible also in case of Paris, which is again the place of the positive migration balance on the surrounding by rather negative. On the right-hand side, it is already the dynamic picture, where the migration change of 2010-2018 are presented together with the absolute value of the changes. And here it's possible to find the places where especially again on the peripheral countries, where the balance is, on the one hand, it is still negative, but on the other hand, the situation is changing relatively quickly, and this change is quite positive. And this is some region in Portugal, Spain, but also Romania, Western Poland, also Baltic states. On the Baltic states, very visible from that point of view. Distance, and first of all, of course, the share of the internal migration, and as you can see in some region, UK, it's probably the best example. It is over 90%. So this migration, it's migration to London. It's in general, it is in general, but also Scandinavian and majority of Western European countries. And this level of this indicator is lower on the emigration country, at least in Lithuania, Poland, Slovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, Croatia, and on the same type. And on the
Portugal estarían en el mismo grupo, serían del mismo tipo. A la derecha podemos ver la distancia media de la migración. Esto nos sorprende que en Europa las velocidades medias son más en el centro, son más cortas, y en la periferia son mayores, y el sur de España, eso es por la migración nacional de Alemania y otros lugares. Islandia tampoco sorprende. Una vez más, se puede encontrar en algunos casos la competencia local. En la República Checa es menos visible porque Praga es una unidad muy pequeña, pero en el caso de Polonia con Varsovia, y también hasta cierto punto en España, donde los rodeos tienen unas distancias más cortas y la migración es principalmente hacia las zonas metropolitanas cercanas. Por otro lado, hay estos sitios donde podríamos reconocer que la frontera entre países son muy visibles, y esto indica que la migración internacional a los países vecinos no es tan alta como hubiéramos podido prever. Y si vemos la frontera entre Polonia y Alemania, y también entre Rumanía y Hungría, vemos este resultado es bastante distinto. También analizamos los factores explicativos según un modelo econométrico. Esto nos sorprende realmente desde el punto de vista que el nivel de ingresos y la riqueza de las regiones de acogida son factores importantes. Esto creo que es evidente. Sigue los estudios, sigue la teoría. El idioma es un factor confirmado por estadísticas. La pertenencia a la zona Schengen, al área Schengen, también tratamos de analizarlo de forma separada para lo se llaman los antiguos y nuevos Estados miembros para toda Europa, teniendo en cuenta el origen, y esto es uno de los resultados obtenidos, que es la apertura de los mercados laborales, que es uno de los factores determinantes más importantes. Y por supuesto, en lo que se refiere a las barreras, tenemos la falta de metrópolis en la región, donde no hay oportunidades para migrar a unas ciudades más grandes que están relativamente cerca. Entonces las personas están más dispuestas a optar por una migración de una distancia más larga. Y brevemente al caso de Ucrania, porque probablemente volveremos con esto hoy. Esto es simplemente que tenemos que ir con muchísimo cuidado y tendríamos que cambiar el tipo de seguimiento que estamos llevando a cabo, porque están cambiando muchas cosas. Por supuesto, en el caso de situaciones tan impredecibles, entonces vemos que el influjo de las ucranianas en Chequia, Eslovaquia y Hungría y Lituania, y también en algunos otros, España, Portugal, Italia, y a la derecha se puede ver el mapa de la diáspora ucraniana, las personas en Europa de origen ucraniano. Aquí vemos que Alemania es muy importante y por supuesto Rusia, pero por otra razón. Estos son casos o escenarios dependiendo de la situación del futuro y cómo esta migración podría ser durante el próximo año, dependiendo de la situación. En Ucrania, y en el peor de los casos, pues el flujo de migrantes ucranianos según las mismas líneas. Esta es la evidencia en contra de nuestros resultados de que no tenemos tanta razón, porque si estos son los nuevos datos del ACNUR, esto nos indica que casi no hay concentrón de ucranianos en Hungría y Rumanía, porque esto era una encuesta realizada en Polonia, cuando preguntábamos a los refugiados ucranianos cuáles eran sus planes, y el 15 o el 17% quería ir a estos otros países, y presumíamos esta información para todos los países de primer contacto, o sea que incluía Rumanía, Hungría y Eslovaquia. Sí que es cierto para Polonia, la mayor concentración, pero Rumanía no lo es. Así que esto significa que también nuestra teníamos que vigilar o incluso cambiar nuestras teorías. Conclusión, muy generalmente, Europa sigue dominada por la migración interna, pero no obstante estamos hablando de la amenaza de inmigración internacional, y los políticos les encanta hablar de esto, pero la intensidad de la migración en Europa es en zonas dentro de los propios países. Por supuesto, la migración internacional sigue dominada por los flujos este-oeste, y la intensidad de la migración puede que esté aumentando, no sabemos cómo es, pero sí que estaba aumentando entre 2010 y 2018. No obstante, si examinamos este diagrama, podríamos encontrar la dominación de los de Alemania y el Reino Unido como países receptores, y Polonia y Rumanía como países de origen. Pero vemos que la inmigración está cayendo, sobre todo en el Reino Unido está bajando, y ya estaba bajando incluso antes del Brexit, a excepción de Londres, pero Londres no es normalmente una excepción, pero la parte de migración desde Polonia está cayendo, y la migración desde Rumanía sí que está aumentando. Entonces el Reino Unido ha cedido su posición a Alemania, y por otro lado Polonia a Rumanía. Así que megas tienen el mayor número de balance de migración, incluso con un balance negativo en lugares como Varsovia, Berlín, Budapest, Bucarest, Sofía y Atenas. Esto es donde tenemos el balance positivo en un mar de negativos, pero en general, entre 2010 y 2018, el balance de migración se convirtió en
that's increasing just in the few European megas. So this is not the situation that all megas have more and more positive balance. That is, for instance, not the case of Paris, or not the case of Roma. Rather, also not the case of Madrid and such a city. There's a quite short list, and it's mainly German cities. This is Munich, Frankfurt, Berlin, then it's London and Warsaw. So that's are the places which are most visible on that map. So we could say that there is a competition for migrants from peripheral regions between.
Podríamos decir que hay una competencia, que había una falta de que había una competición de la periferia desde el centro de Europa y otros países. En algunas regiones, los europeos de países de Europa del Este están mejorando, y al mismo tiempo en algunas zonas de la Europa occidental esto es distinto. Desde luego los valores son muy inferiores en los países más grandes, así que no lo hemos comprobado, pero en un análisis econométrico, pero es algo para el futuro, pero hay distintos resultados para los países más grandes con un sistema de asentamiento policéntrico, porque tienen más oportunidades generalmente para la migración interna. Y en zonas periféricas tenemos un indicador, así que esto está drenando lo local. Y si hablamos de la distancia, podríamos resumir que la parte del este estaba dominada por una significancia relativa de la distancia en los influjos comparados con los flujos hacia el exterior. Y la mayor parte de los países de Europa Occidental tienen justo lo contrario, porque la distancia afecta principalmente la salida de emigrantes, pero hay que tener en cuenta que el tamaño de las zonas puede ser distinta, como por ejemplo en Alemania. El modelo ha confirmado la significancia de las asociaciones entre flujos de migratorios y niveles de ingresos, y también tenemos una lección de la guerra de Ucrania que afecta la escala general de las diferencias territoriales, y tenemos que recordar que la realidad ya ha verificado algunos modelos, y esto también es una lección importante para nosotros. Y finalmente, una conclusión para las oficinas estadísticas o Eurostat. Tendríamos que decir que Europa no tiene unos estudios de migración comparables. La mayor parte de nuestro trabajo lo hicimos porque teníamos que hacerlo, pero se vio dificultado por ahí. Incluso los datos básicos, no solo de región a región, pero incluso a nivel de país. Así que esto es un reto general muy importante que tenemos que abordar con Eurostat y quizás otras instituciones. Así que muchísimas gracias por su atención. Y ahora paso directamente a Marcin en el turismo, y luego estaremos listos para muchas preguntas.